All right, let's talk candy. We go live to Reno, Nevada, where we see Joe Dutra, president of a Kimmie Candy company, joins us live there. Welcome to BizAsiaAmerica. Let me talk about these sugar prices. They're very volatile. They were complaining that the prices weren't high enough, but so here we go. They're now moving. Are things going to be better?
Well, this year, sugar prices have been down comparatively over the last 4 years, but over a 4-year period, U.S. sugar prices have been 60 to 90% over world pricing. So what we're seeing this year is because of some oversupply, and we're seeing some big imports in from Mexico. We're seeing a little bit of a reduction in the cost of sugar, but the cost of sugar has actually gone up about 10 to 15% since the low parts of this summer. So we're affected adversely. I think American confectionery manufacturers are adversely affected by these high sugar prices in the U.S.
We were talking about some of the candy companies expanding outside of the U.S. Is that because of the profit margins related to the price of sugar?
I think it is. I think what happens is in the U.S., the chocolate that we use in our products is manufactured here, and it's manufactured with U.S. chocolate that has U.S. sugar in it. And so the cost of sugar and the cost of chocolate are more expensive here in the U.S. And if you go to Mexico or you go to Canada, you find there's a great difference in the cost of ingredients. So what happens is you're finding U.S. manufacturers, especially if their product contains a large amount of sugar, are going across the borders to get the lower sugar prices because the margins are so tight. Because it's a global economy now, and I think what's happened is we compete with every country in the world in a domestic market, and I think what happens is we have to compete against cheap sugar around the world.
There is some criticism that the U.S. government artificially keeps the price of sugar high. Obviously, that's for a lot of the producers. I'm just wondering, is there a compromise to be had here?
I think there is. I think in 2008, they changed the Farm Bill in the United States, which didn't allow the Secretary of Agriculture to regulate imports and tariffs. I think we need to keep strong domestic sugar production going here, but I think what's happened is that the way this antiquated, this government program is over 60 years old, was set up when farmers were having really difficult times surviving. I think the global economy's changed, and I think farmers are making more money now in a lot of aspects and have options of growing things. And I think there's more options, and I think we need to modify this farm bill so that it allows farmers to make some money, but it also allows confectionery manufacturers, as well as not just confectionery. Everybody in the baking industry uses sugar, so they figure it's a hidden tax for everyone in the United States, which they figure is about $4 billion a year.
All right, now for the really hard questions. I have noticed over the last 10, 20 years that the price of candy has gone up significantly. I mean, you look at candy bars and chocolate-related goods, and you can now pay what some would say is a ridiculous amount for good chocolate, and of course it used to not be that way. What is causing this massive spike in candy prices? Because if the price of sugar is down, you would think it would be the other way around.
Well, the price of sugar has gone up over the last 20 years significantly. I mean, it's in the U.S. because of, like I say, because of some of the subsidies. We're paying 48 to 50 cents a pound for bagged sugar in our facility here in Reno, Nevada. But what we're also finding out is there's a huge demand for chocolate. Over the last 10 years, chocolate has actually become somewhat of a healthy indulgence. And what we're finding is the demand, the world demand for cocoa and for chocolate has increased, and thus it's increased the price of chocolate. And with the increased cost of sugar, we've got some high prices.
One of my producers, Rochelle Kufo, is a big fan of the chocolate. In fact, she's probably watching this interview right now. In looking towards out 12 to 18 months, if nothing has changed about the price of sugar and it stays roughly where it is today, what's going to happen to the margins and what's going to happen to these candy manufacturers? Are they going to be able to expand here in the U.S., or them looking overseas? Is that a permanent scenario that we have to deal with?
Well, you know what's happened at this juncture in time is that the price of chocolate has skyrocketed over the last 8 months. You know, we've seen price increases of 20 to 30% in the cost of the chocolate. That is more predicated on the cost of cocoa beans coming out of Africa and the discrepancy we have between cocoa butter and cocoa powder. So sugar can stay relatively flat here for the next, 6 or 8 months, and it won't affect our pricing so much because we've had such an increase in pricing here in the last 4 or 5 months.
Joe Dutra, president of Kimmie Candy. We will do our best to keep the demand for sugar up. Thank you very much.
We want to keep life sweet.
Live for us from Reno. Thank you very much.